Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of NASCAR Busch Series action on the NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005 video game. No practice, no qualifying like NASCAR would nowadays for the Dairyland 350. It is the longest race of the season, likely will be the longest race of the season for the NASCAR Busch Series. Last time we were at Old Spice Speedway, it was 300 miles in 200 laps. This is an extra 50 miles, an extra 33 laps in today's race. That race earlier this season had just two cautions, and it ended up taking 2 hours and 57 minutes in elapsed time. This one will well be over 3 hours. There'll be a little jump cut, a couple jump cuts throughout the course of the race, just kind of like we did with the other premieres that we had ran. And the reason, first and foremost, that this is a premiere as well is because I will not be home with working earlier in the day, and I will be live streaming at night, but not a NASCAR video game. It will be live commentary of the Xfinity Series race at Las Vegas later on tonight as of when this is going to be uploaded. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed your afternoon so far. You're about to enjoy it a little bit more with some racing action on the channel. So like, share, subscribe. Let's get on into the Dairyland 350 at the Old Spice Speedway. The second trip to Old Spice Speedway on the year, the second road course race of the season. 5 races to go to decide a champion. Green flag is in the air. Kyle Busch will lead the field to the green. Kevin Harvick going to try to be very, very patient in this race today, knowing that he has 43 cars to pass on a road course that is pretty narrow, pretty fast, and just being at the back of the pack, not looking great. Taking it easy here. Cars scattering around quite a bit at the back of the pack right now. He's going to send it into this first U-turn. There was some contact up ahead. Harvick takes it 3 wide to the inside. Passes a few cars, actually. Herbie Sadler, one of them. And Harvick is already up to 37th on the opening lap, gaining 6 positions even after backing out of the gas pretty early those first few quarters trying to save. Takes a 3 wide dive into the next U-turn corner, passes a ton of cars, locks the brakes up to keep it off the back of Craig Miller as they get back to the start-finish line. Kyle Busch leads lap 1. That's 5 bonus points for him. He comes in third in the point standings, has lost a spot over the last couple races. And as for Kevin Harvick, who comes in with the points lead, 425 points ahead of second place Bobby Hamilton Jr. into today's race. You just have to wonder, how much is he going to be able to lead in the points even following this race here today? It's a very, very long race. Another reason why you got to be patient on top of starting at the back. Harvick's had a situation where the last 2 races were a little shaky for him. He had good comeback performances to get 2 top 10s in the last couple races. But is he going to want to do something like that again today as he forces it very deep? Again, 3 wide in that final corner. And already Kevin Harvick has cracked the top 20. And we're only on lap 3. Oh, and he gets ran into from behind by the 119 of Keith. Sorry, that was Eddie Hammock in the 119 car. Another pass for 19th, though, as Harvick just got ran into from behind there in turn 2. Trying to make the pass on the 46 of Ashton Lewis. Does with ease. Harvick is flying through this field early on. Being everybody into these braking zones. Here's Lance Brantley in the 109 car. Harvick was expected to just kind of take it easy here early on, which for the most part he is. Backing out into turn 1, side by side with Dwayne Borland in the 135 car. Harvick a little loose, trying to get back into the throttle. Borland holds clear. Harvick drives it deep, down to the apron. Oh, what a slide job that was to go 3 wide again. And he's up to 12th with some clean passes. 6 seconds off the lead already, but the fact that he started last and is up to 12th and we're not even at the end of lap 40 yet is pretty amazing to say the least. Locks the brakes up. The 106 pulled down in front of him on a very late block as well. He was trying to get around the 107 car, it looked like. Definitely going to have to take care of your tires in this long of a race. Also, unaware of how many pit stops we're going to have today. If I remember correctly, these guys could go about 60 laps on fuel. And if that is the case, we're probably looking at about a 3-stop race today. I don't think it'll be a 4-stopper. Though I guess you never know. Contact with the 106 of Richards. Harvick going to let him go. He's getting pinched off right there. Just, again, trying to take care of the race car. Keep it clean. When you come in as a points leader, you have to be very patient, especially at the end of the season. You're so close to a championship, but you don't want to take yourself out of it early. Kevin Harvick was the Busch Series champion in 2001, so this is going to be his second title if he can win it and clinch it here in the next few races. Going to look to the outside into turn 1. Oh, that did not work. He did not hold any grip whatsoever there. Clipped the grass a little bit on corner entry, and the 106 got back by him. And as well, the 106 got by the 107. It's Wally Renshaw, excuse me, not Richards. Richards in the 106 in the Truck Series. And he's still side by side even after the contact with Harvick. Harvick going to look to the outside, 3 wide into the corner, contact all over the place, and Harvick's in the wall. Somehow no caution there. His cars got tagged and just hung up together. Harvick's going to fall all the way back to 19th. And he was patient up until that last lap, and he saw that it bit him immediately. Very surprised there was no yellow that time. Now, the 106 car obviously pinched him off. That was not Harvick's fault. Both times he had contact with him, but put him in a situation where he felt desperate to make a 3-wide move to the outside in that final corner, and it obviously backfired. Lost 7 positions out of it. He was in 12th. Now he's back to 19th. And hopefully he didn't have too much speed taken out of the car as he locks the brakes up to pass a couple more back. And that final corner now, it's the 14 of Casey Atwood, who runs into the side of Harvick, trying to pinch him down. It wasn't much of a block. Harvick was already half a car underneath Atwood, but Atwood just moved down right on top of him again. Harvick drifts his way through turn 2, closing on Lance Brantley again. Deep dive into the corner. Now he's underneath Brantley, and now Brantley cuts down into him, and Harvick was about a half a car ahead of the 109. It's just unbelievable that everybody's just running into the side of Harvick here early on. Harvick's holding his line pretty well. A little hot, locking the brakes up. That time he wasn't even trying to make a pass, but he still locked him up. And here's the 107 car once again as they head down the longest straightaway of the racetrack, across the bridge into turn 1. Harvick will clear him before they get into the first turn. Trying to make a move on the 22 of Jason Keller. Keller pulls high to arc the corner off. Harvick drives it in deep on the bottom. Down to the apron. He'll clear the 22 car with ease. And he's right back to the 12th spot a few laps after making contact and getting into the wall. Got Blue Castleberry and Dwayne Borland right in front of him in 10th and 11th. Harvick on the outside in the corner, but not 3 wide this time. He'll be side by side. And Castleberry in the 138. Not going to work. He'll try to undercut off the exit of the corner, and now he's underneath Castleberry. All clear before getting into turn 1. Oh, Castleberry just ran it in really deep into turn 1 and gets into the side of Harvick. More contact for the 21. Makes the pass. Now he's underneath the 106, who has caused him problems a couple times already. They're side by side. This time he'll clear the 106 on a clean pass, and he lets him go. No Cup Series regulars outside of Harvick in this race. Harvick just running the full season, though, because we are running as him. You guys fan voted for me to race as Kevin Harvick on this Busch Series season. Takes the pass on the 152 car. up to 7th. Just less than 7.5 seconds off the race lead from Kyle Busch, though, who is really checking out and has led the first 11 laps of this race now. Harvick's got to be careful locking the brakes up. I know we're early in the run and he's got fairly fresh tires, but now that we're on lap 12, he has done that quite a bit in these U-turns so far, these hairpin-like corners. And he might be wearing those front tires out maybe a little bit more by the end of the run than what he could have. He was a little wide off turn 2 that time. Sends it off into turn 3, closes the gap quite a bit on the 139 car right in front of him. In position to try and make a pass. He is there. Now on the outside. Gets that run off the banking, pulls clear well before they get into the next corner. Locks the brakes up, trying to pull away from him. Harvick very aggressive into the braking zones here early on. Part of why he has driven up to 6th place already, but it's Kyle Busch with the clean air running a more steadier pace to save his tires for when Harvick gets to him. Just have to wait and see. Bit of a slide off turn 2 that time, closing in on Nick Richardson. So it'll be for a top 5 position on the racetrack for Harvick as he pulls alongside of him immediately. And makes the quick pass for 5th place. Almost drifted up into the wall that time, carrying a lot of speed, and Richardson tries to outbrake Harvick on the high side into the final corner. Didn't quite work out for him, and he ran a lot wider than what he wanted to. Probably because he entered in a lot wider on corner entry, but Harvick does hold on. Kind of a late scare there as Richardson maybe had caught Harvick by surprise. Terry Cook in the 4th position. Harvick trying to close on him. This is an 8-turn road course for those of you wondering. Very, very fast one at that. Locks the brakes up as he closes in on Cook. And now he's underneath the 10 car for position. He's going to clear him before getting into turn 1, it looks like. Cook drives it in pretty deep. Into turn 2, all clear. Harvick closing on his teammate, Ron Hornaday. Comes into the race 4th in the point standings. He's had a few DNFs in the last few races. Really, these guys are going to need Harvick to DNF at least once, probably twice, if they're going to have a shot at the championship. At this point in the season, the fact that he came close to DNFing in each of the last 2 races, but survived and got top 10 finishes at the end of those races, just goes to show why Harvick has been so tough this season as he quickly makes the pass on Hornaday, not wasting any time in turn 8. Clears him with ease off corner exit, pulls him down the longest straightaway of the racetrack. And Harvick all of a sudden is only about 2.5 seconds off the race lead. Each of the top 4 are in the top 4 in standings. That has not really been a surprise if you have watched the course of this season so far. Well, my goodness, Harvick is setting the pace early. It definitely looks like the driver to beat. Good thing Busch is getting some laps led in here early on. He's trying to close on Bobby Hamilton Jr. for 2nd in points. Backing up the corner a little bit to gas it up on corner exit. Harvick clears Hamilton. 1 lap after passing Hornaday, and now he's 1.2 seconds off the race lead on Kyle Busch. Harvick up to 2nd in another lap or 2. He'll probably be in the lead. The toughest car to pass is obviously going to be the next fastest one, which is Kyle Busch early on. Plus, Kyle Busch has that clean air advantage as well. Harvick closes quite a bit in the first half of the lap, and by turn 4, he's all over the back bumper of Busch. Gonna try to get underneath him here. Side by side for the race lead as they enter into turn 7. Busch has the advantage on the inside. Harvick up high, maybe a little run off the banking. They're side by side. Harvick has the advantage on the bottom now into turn 8. Didn't lock the brakes up that time, just outbreaks Kyle Busch still, with Busch having the disadvantage on the high side. And that's 5 bonus points for Kevin Harvick as he leads his first lap of the race. It took him 17 laps to go from last to first on a road course here at Old Spice Speedway. And when it's 233 laps long, that is definitely got to be a good sight for Harvick. Now he just got to try to keep this car clean, which he had a little bit of problems with it briefly, trying to get through the field initially. But as of right now, I have to say this is going to be extremely tough for anybody to have a shot in this one. But you never know how the cautions can play out, especially with it being a long race. I mean, this is Cup Series length long. This is going to be over 3 hours. Well, you guys won't have to sit through the entire 3 hours. We will have some jump cuts throughout the course of this race for your guys' sake. Watching Harvick get through the field early on. Busch is not done yet as he looks to the inside in turn 1. He'll be on the outside in turn 2. Harvick runs a little wide, not expecting Busch to still be there. So contact was made. And with that contact, Bobby Hamilton Jr. has closed in now on Kyle Busch for second place. Harvick really gassed it up over those last 4 corners or so. After the contact with Busch in turn 2 this lap. That's kind of what we were talking about, though. Did Kevin Harvick use his tires up trying to get through the field as quickly as he did? That might allow Kyle Busch to hang with him for quite some time. Probably to the end of this current fuel run or tire stint that these drivers are on to start the race. Remember, only 4 sets of tires in these Busch Series races as well, so no matter what, Harvick can outpit more than 4 times. It's going to be interesting. Really going to have to hope he can go 60 laps into a run. If he can do that, then he can make it on 3 stops. I guess if he had to take 4 stops, he would have 4 sets of tires to be able to do that, but he would not be able to pit under any cautions today. And at least if he can make it 60 laps, he can pit under a yellow if he so chooses at some point in this race. Obviously, we know he's got a fast car. He got through the traffic once. I don't think you would want to do that at the end of the race, because if you burn your tires up then you're going to have a hard time trying to hold on to the lead like he kind of is now. He's not pulling away from Busch. I mean, he is a second ahead of him, but it's been a few laps since passing him, and the pace he ran to get to Kyle when he was 7.5 seconds off the lead at his most, at the disadvantage off the lead. Just kind of got to wonder, for Harvick's sake, will that continue? This is the shortest road course on this game of any fantasy track or non-fantasy track. Of course, this is a fantasy track on this Busch Series season, but this is put in as an actual part of the Busch Series schedule on this game due to not having the licensing for all the Busch Series racetracks that they would have raced on in 2004. That's why you see 2 trips here to Old Spice Speedway, why you saw 2 trips to Red Bull Raceway at the beginning of the season, 1 trip to Dodge Raceway, 1 trip to Levi Strauss's Signature Speedway. So there are a few tracks like that throughout the course of the season. Of course, Nazareth was on the schedule at this time. That is no longer a track. Milwaukee was on the schedule at the time. Obviously, no longer a racetrack in the staple of any of the top 3 series in NASCAR. You did see them on this game throughout the course of this 2004 season. Of course, Nazareth shut down after 2004. So, the technicality, it's the last year at Nazareth on this game, but if I remember correctly, it is still at least in 2006 and 2007 as well. So then there will be a fantasy track at that point in time. Crazy to have a road course this late in the season as well. I mean, we might be used to it now in 2021. And even the last couple of years with the Charlotte Roval being in the playoffs for the Xfinity and the Cup Series. But at this time period in NASCAR, that was not the case. Of course, Riverside out in California used to be the season finale there for a little bit in the NASCAR Cup Series back in the 70s and 80s. And I think into the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. I'm having a hard time trying not to lock the brakes up in turn 8, which would be that finishing corner. Could definitely be worse. To see once Harvick gets into lap traffic as well, if he can maybe expand that lead a little bit more, maybe that'll be an opportunity even more for Kyle Busch to try and close the gap. But knowing how quickly Harvick passed the cars the first time around, I'd have to imagine he'd be a great candidate to blow through lap traffic. Maybe not during this opening run, with him using the tires to get through the first time, but if he could just keep this track position throughout the course of the race and not have to use his tires getting through the pack more and more and more, this would be all right, as he was able to finally slow the car up enough that time into turn 8. And he pulled ahead about 0.2 of a second in that corner alone with doing so. But this is definitely going to be a test of endurance in this race today. Just wait till we get to the Cup Series at some of these fantasy road courses on our custom schedule season. That's still a long ways away from now. If I had to guess, it's probably not going to end up even happening until 2022 on the channel, but you never know. We'll see. Locking the brakes up that time into turn 8. Right back to normalcy, I guess. We'll alternate through the different camera angles for the first time in the race today for the next 4 laps. Favorite part of this road course has to be crossing the bridge, almost like the Nashville Street Course for IndyCar this year, where they were able to race on a bridge. Well, we were able to do that in these older EA Sports NASCAR video games right here at the Old Spice Speedway. Great look at that hotel on the turn 3 side as well. Some rocks caved in on the racetrack. Nice grandstand section over here near the start-finish line into the finishing corner as well. There's quite a few seats. So just a nice scenery of a road course, which a lot of the fantasy road courses on this game had some tremendous scenery around it. Definitely having a tough time in turn 2. Notice the car will get a little loose at times through there, and I've also kind of noticed the last few laps, it seems like it's pushing a tad bit wider every time we get through there as well. One of those road courses that actually does have more left-handed turns than right-handed turns, and I think that's maybe more suitable for these stock cars as well. Already to lap 30 in this one. Quick race pace to start, going caution-free. We only had 2 cautions earlier this season in this race. It was still 2 hours, 57 minutes, so probably going to be a long one once again here if I had to imagine. Kyle Busch is starting to close the gap just a little bit more again. The lead is down to about 1.2 seconds off of turn 8 that time, and maybe at this point in the run, the tires are starting to maybe even out a little bit as Harvick has already made his way 30 laps completed into the race. Kyle Busch has led the most so far, leading the first 16 laps. Kevin Harvick, though, quickly closing in on an equal amount of laps led. Give him a couple more laps and he will have already matched what Kyle Busch led to start the race. And there it is. So halfway on fuel at lap 31. So we're looking at about 60 laps on a full fuel window, which is what I remembered it being when we were here early in the season. Breaks up into turn 8. I'm surprised the tires are not in the yellow quite yet as well. So we'll go back to the far chase cam for now. Harvick about a tenth of a second quicker that last lap on Kyle Busch again. Maybe he just had a good stretch of about 3 laps in a row that he was able to go from 1.8 off the lead to 1.2. On average, about 2.5 tenths quicker a lap through that 3-lap stretch. But Harvick's definitely starting to widen it back out again quickly to 1.6. No out of bounds on this road course that Harvick is able to really take a deep dive into turn 3, and it seems to be where he gains the most time doing that, and that's where he was making the most passes as well, trying to get through the traffic at the beginning of the race. Did a great job not locking up the tires that time in turn 8 at all as well. I mean, that lap, maybe a tenth of a second quicker, if not a little less than that on Kyle Busch. Seems like whatever time Harvick gains in turn 3, Busch gains it back in turn 8, which is very strange considering that they're almost identical corners on this track. Turn 3 a lot wider, though, with the apron being available versus there's no apron in turn 8. It's all grass on the inside and the outside. Only on the outside there is grass in front of the guardrail in turn 3. Whew. Slide now really close to the wall off turn 7. Back into turn 8. Didn't really lock the tires up that time either. So we'll take our first break of the race for about the next 20 laps unless we get a caution. Oh boy, Harvick made a mistake into turn 2. And Kyle Busch is closed very, very quickly. Hold that thought just a second. Busch all of a sudden within 8 tenths of a second after that mistake in turn 2. Harvick overdrove the corner. Trying to pull back away on the back half of the racetrack, though. Really get the hammer down on this longest straightaway following turn 8. It seems like he gives up on corner entry to get that corner exit speed built back up again. Harvick right back out to a 1 second lead again as he locked the tires up into turn 3 that time, trying to push a little bit harder now that Busch has closed that gap again. And quickly, Harvick has put it back out to 1.4 seconds. We'll see out the exit of turn 8 up here if Busch could try to close that gap again. It seems like Harvick's been a little bit more steadier as this race has gone on as well into turn 7, at least over the last few laps. Maybe not driving in there quite as deep or quite as hard as he was before. I mean, that corner, you're pretty much full throttle all the way through, which is part of why the cars probably get light, because it's a right-handed corner, not only at full throttle with the high banking, but definitely something. All right, so for about the next 20 laps now that we have stretched the lead back out again, we'll take a short break unless we get a caution in the middle of that. You're watching the Dairyland 350 at the Old Spice Speedway on NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005 Busch Series Racing live on KRC. If you're just tuning in, caution is out. I don't know why I ran into the back of Tim Fido under the yellow, but caution is out. There's a stoppage on the racetrack. I think Manny Brown ran out of fuel. Either that or Casey Atwood had a problem and pulled in front of him, but one way or the other, we have a caution at lap 60, our first caution of the race today. Most of the drivers have already pitted for their green flag stop. Kevin Harvick was either going to go in this lap or the following lap. He was a couple turns away at the time of the caution from him maybe hitting pit road. Well, now he can pit under the yellow. He has a one-lap lead on the field. Now, a lot of these drivers will take the wave around to get back on the lead lap. That did already pit, that would have been on the lead lap prior to the green flag pit stops. But Harvick will still get to restart from the lead. It'll be a four-tire stop under the caution flag at lap 61 here. So he's able to go a little bit longer on fuel with this caution coming out, and he didn't have to worry about losing the lead. He was out on the racetrack about 8 laps after Kyle Busch had already pitted. He grew out to about a 6-second lead prior to the yellow. So no adjustments. Here we go. 4-tire stop, a backward style pit stop with having to serve the left side tires before the right sides on this reverse pit road underneath the grandstands at that as well. Kind of similar to the Dodge Raceway, another fantasy track on this game, but pretty fast, clean stop there for the 21 crew. So indeed, only car on pit road there. I think, everybody's going to restart in front of Harvick, so he's going to have to get through the field. Green flag is back in the air at Old Spice Speedway, though. Harvick going to have to go the length of the field again, but he is the leader. Everybody in front of him, for the most part, is on the lead lap. Unless they were a lap down prior to that, but lap 64, we're back to green flag racing again. We'll see how far these guys can make it. You had to assume we were going to get a couple cautions in today's race again, with it being a very long race on a road course nonetheless. It took 60 laps, but we got our first one at lap 60. 2x2 traffic after they get through turn 3 into turn 4 as well. Single file restarts, of course, gonna help, but nothing going to be perfect by any means either. Harvick trying to send it 3 wide. He had the 12 of Tim Fido underneath him, and they got hung up getting into that corner, as you saw. Quite a bit of contact. Harvick was willing to send it there. I don't think he was expecting Fido to send it too, though. He was running into the back of the car in front of him, which would have been the 123. David Green, Manny Brown, and many others checked up. Oh, we got another crash in turn 3 out of the rear view. Casey Atwood goes for a spin. Sorry, Tim Fido, rather, goes for a spin. And that's what we were kind of talking about right after the yellow. And everybody that took the wave around that needed a quick yellow got one right there just a couple laps after the restart. Fido drove it in too deep, and when he moved up the track, he had a car that was barely on his right side, enough to where it just turned Fido right up the track. Luckily, he kept it off the wall and saved it. But now with this caution, this is going to bunch those leaders back up together again, and guys like Kyle Busch back into this race all of a sudden. Lap cars to the inside of the lead lap cars. So double file restart at least at the front of the field. Green flag back in the air now at lap 69 at the Old Spice Speedway. Are we going to pull down in front? Fido going to get around him immediately on the restart. Cautions are definitely going to start to slow this race pace down if we keep getting more and more and more. Harvick just trying to hang on right here. And he's trying to get around the 12 car of Fido, who's got the clean air in front of him. Everybody on virtually the same amount of tires as far as the laps on their tires go. I think they're going to have to wait for this thing to space out a little bit more. So we went 60 laps, green flag to start the race. Then we get 2 cautions in the span of about maybe 3 green flag laps. Busch undercuts in turn 2 as he tries to get around Fedewa. Not going to happen there. Fedewa with a block. He's trying to remain on the lead lap. Harvick with the deep dive into 3 is going to clear Fedewa off corner exit. So now Harvick's got the clean air and about a 1.3 second lead over Kyle Busch. You guys saw right before we cut away that Kyle Busch was pretty close to Harvick. He got to within 0.8 of a second, but then again during the run during the lap traffic, Harvick was able to stretch it out to a 6-second lead and then had a 1 lap lead on the field only because he was the last one that did not pit. That's why he was the only car that pit during the first caution. So he can probably go a little bit longer than these guys on fuel this time around. Tried to probably short pit for the tire stint. Still make this a 3-stop race to the end. Just have to continue to see if these cautions are going to keep playing out throughout the course of this race. So it's only going to throw maybe a wrench in some of the strategy plans throughout the course of today's race as well. Already almost 2.5 seconds ahead. Busch just cannot get around Fedewa to save his life right now, and that's costing him a lot of time on Harvick. Harvick blocked the brakes up a little bit, getting into turn number 8. He has done that quite a bit in this race already. And still early on. We're not halfway home, not even to lap 100 yet. So a lot could definitely still happen throughout the course of this race. Harvick's done a good job on the strategy, staying out in front of the field, but that big lead he had, and even a 6-second advantage, is gone. It's like the field got really spaced apart over the last, like turn 8, really, that last time around. Spaced the field apart quite a bit. It looks like we have a slow car on the racetrack as well. It's likely going to try to make their way onto pit road. We do continue to stay green, so Harvick's going to have to watch himself when he gets up here. And yep, there is a car blowing up. That would be the 22 of Jason Keller. Looks like there were some sparks flying from underneath the car on top of the smoke itself. So we'll have to see when the leaders get back to him. Hopefully they can miss him. And Keller can make his way to pit road, no problem. Hopefully he can make his way to pit road here without an issue. Some of those lead lap cars that lost a lot of time behind him could be costly if we don't get a quick yellow. That really, really jumbled Kyle Busch up, too. He didn't even realize that. Schneider's out, or Kevin Harvick, rather, is out to a 9.9 second lead on Kyle Busch after Busch got held up behind Jason Keller, who was essentially blowing up and had some damage on his race car as well. Although Keller made it onto pit road, obviously costed some of the leaders and even some lap cars quite a bit of time. Well, I guess we'll take another jump cut right now. Means Harvick has a 10.4 second lead. If anything else happens, you guys will get to see the yellow. if that ends up happening, and we will be back well before the second pit stops of the race, at least for Kevin Harvick's sake. You're watching the Dairyland 350 at the Old Spice Speedway for the Busch Series on NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005, live on KRC. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, at the Old Spice Speedway for the Dairyland 350. We are currently on lap 100 of 233 on this very long road course race. That is likely going to be the longest race of the season. Still sitting at 2 cautions on the race today. Well, we got a lot of traffic slowing up here. I think one of the slow cars that I saw the lap prior did not make it to pit road. Maybe he did. It's really hard to tell now. I would have to think that he probably made it into the pits because they're not getting completely stacked up at the moment. But currently in lap traffic, and a 20-plus second lead, about 20 and a half second lead for Kevin Harvick right now. Lap cars have really derailed Kyle Busch's success here as of late. Nobody has pitted for the second time yet in the race today. I'd have to assume green flag pit stops will start very, very soon, so that is why we have cut back. Don't want you to miss anything there. Of course, you saw our pit stop earlier, though it was under yellow. Everybody else was pitting under green at the time. You guys will get to see all of the pit stops for everybody, whether it will be under green or yellow the second time around. And then from that point on, it is, again, from here on out, a 2-stop race to the finish for everybody. Go about 60 laps on a full tank of fuel at the Old Spice Speedway. Went to lap 60 before the caution came out last time, right at lap 60. So probably a little bit further, considering we had that caution and another caution a couple laps after the first restart. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this race so far. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. The pass right there on Al Wiggins, one of the other generated drivers in the field. Still using that apron in turn 3 as much as Harvick can, it looks like, up to this point. Definitely been the go-to corner to make passes on lap cars, even earlier in the race on lead lap cars. Corner widens out way down there. It is obviously the widest corner on the racetrack with doing so. Would have been a passing lane because of the sharp hairpin line corner, even without the apron being accessible. Makes it a little easier for him. Cody Holt, the 56 car right there. Ooh, a little contact off the exit of turn 2. Those lap cars try to get their lap back briefly there on Kevin Harvick. Didn't really work out, and Harvick will get around Holt the next corner in turn 3 again anyway. Contact didn't slow the 21 down too much, at least, off the exit of turn 2. Still kind of locking the brakes up into turn 8. Tires have really worn out a whole lot. I mean, all 4 tires are in the yellow by the end of the run, but didn't see anything in the red before we pitted that last time. Granted, we got a caution right before we did pit, so maybe that last lap it could have been in the red. We'll never know, but you know, even if only the last lap's in the red, I can deal with that, especially with a bigger lead like what Harvick's got right now. But seeing those 2 cautions kind of put everything right back into a bunch again, I mean, that could still happen. We are still just shy of halfway in this race. And probably longer for me than for you guys, knowing we've already had 2 jump cuts in the race so far. We'll have a couple more before the end of it yet. Try to shorten this up for your guys' sake. Already matching the amount of cautions we had in the race earlier this season here, and it was 33 laps shorter. We're not even to that lap 200 mark, far from it yet. Oh, drifted up the track quite a bit. That's as bad as he's drifted up the track at turn 7 all day today. Didn't look like it hurt him too bad. Big dive underneath Eddie Hammock in the 119. Makes the clean pass in turn 3. No surprise it was in that corner. We had that first caution of the race in the middle of green flag stops last time. You wonder if that may happen again here. Are we going to try to take this fuel run as far as he possibly can? I'd imagine he can go past the lap 120 mark just because of the couple cautions we had, but we'll see. Dive on Craig Miller. 168. That outside in turn 2 is pretty treacherous. You go side by side. It's not a corner you want to be going side by side in. Harvick makes the slide job move in turn 3 on the 168 of Miller. He cleared him that time. He'll throw the block into turns 4 and 5. And it's like Miller kind of missed his marks and ran a little wide as well. So maybe the dirty air was pushing on him. Once that 21 car had cleared him and ran right in front of him in the same line. They're trying to charge back. That's not really going to work either, though. Not on the fastest car by far in the field today. Dive down to the bottom. I noticed if Harvick can't clear a car in turn 3, he has problems even trying to stay alongside of him. Not the case this time on JC Mathers in the 124 car, who's still right there, and now he'll clear off turn 7. So held on for a few extra corners, but still was not able to get alongside. He'll outbrake him, locking the brakes up into turn 8, but again making the pass. And Mathers goes really wide. Miller might have a shot at him here in a couple corners, especially if he ends up messing up one of these next couple corners coming up again. So I've recorded for over an hour and a half to this point in the race, so well on pace for over 3 hours for the recording time. Spin the tires a little bit right there. About a quarter tank of gas left for Harvick at lap 110. It doesn't really mean anything, though, as far as the recording time, because I do pause it a couple times anytime I make the cut. Put in my notes, what lap I'm making the cuts on. And I also listen to music during the little break in the action, and as soon as we get a caution, I have to pause it immediately like I did there. So that's why under that first caution we had, I actually paused it right before it showed the replay. So that way you guys can see the replay of the accident. That's when I went back on. I was planning to go back like a few laps after that, and right before we would have pit, but caution caught me a little early. So we'll not have to do that this time if we get a caution in the middle of green flag stops, because we will get to show you everything through that. Parker in the 88 car. Right there. Last car on the lead lap right now is Parker. He's had a pretty good season. He's in the top 10 of the point standings. Pretty good in the Busch Series for 88 of Parker. A couple generated drivers at the top 10 in points. We're going to lap Parker that time. A great run early on for Billy Parker. Definitely could be better. It's just not working out as well in the road courses for him this season. Oof. I think turn 2's got to be the most treacherous corner for Harvick today. It just seems like the car wants to power slide through that corner like every time. Closed on Jared Holmes quite a bit in turn 3 again. Harvick's fastest lap of the race is a 46.692. That last lap was a 47.241. Was him passing Billy Parker in the process. Now he's trying to get around Jared Holmes this lap. So just goes to show on lap traffic, the time's probably not going to be at 100% Harvick's best. That lap was in the 46s though. Well, 0.3 of a second quicker than the lap prior. Probably because he didn't actually get alongside Holmes yet. He goes to his back bumper. That was about it for now. Power slides through turn 2. And he's still all over the back of Holmes. He should make the pass in 3, down to the apron again. He's just perfect hitting his marks through there every time, too. He has not made a mistake all day going through that corner. Made some 3 wide passes down there as well very early in the race. When he needs to, when he's in really heavy traffic, that would be the opportunity to do it. Pretty big drift getting into 3. Barely cleared Herbie Sadler. He almost didn't clear him because he was a little sideways getting into the corner, but he was still able to slide right up in front of the 0-2. Made the clean pass anyway. Even when he's not perfect in turn 3, he's able to run fast enough to make passes. I thought for certain I wasn't going to have to lock the brakes up that time, and still did. Thought I backed up the corner enough. A little bit of a block on Herbie Sadler trying to keep that 0-2 car lap down. And the turn 3, Harvick pulls away from Sadler just a little bit finally. Still surprised nobody has pit yet. They are really taking this second run a lot further than their first. We've seen those guys pit right around lap 52, 53 earlier in the race. Though, again, I guess because of the cautions, they could definitely go a little bit further anyway. On top of the fact that they were short pitting that first stop of the race because of how long we went green to start the day. 1/8 of a tank of fuel left at lap 118 for Kevin Harvick. So he'd probably go another 8 laps at the most before he'd have to pit. That would take him to lap 126. All over the back of the 113 of Tyner Buchanan here. Just gonna have to watch cars pulling onto and off of pit road again. Harvick didn't have any troubles with that before, but other drivers did, so he's just going to have to be on his best behavior to not have that issue again this time around. There's a duck on the pit road by one of the lap cars, 106. A couple of the cars ahead of him are already on pit road, so green flag pit stops opening up for the second time in today's race at the Old Spice Speedway. Started this late morning, ending it in the early to mid-afternoon. You guys will probably see this run throughout the middle of the afternoon when it uploads for its premiere as you're watching for Saturday. Race is coming up for me that I guess I would have to run between me recording this. You guys will have already seen it live streams. Would be our California race for the Cup Series on NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005. That will be live streamed. So Ashton Lewis takes his right-hand turn to pit road. And also going to run the NASCAR Cup Series race on NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode at Talladega, 50% race there. That will have been the night before, so hopefully you guys enjoy both those races, as well as enjoying this one. Side-by-side traffic up here. There's Herbie Sadler. He must have just pit. Speaking of which, because he is right in front of Harvick. He's going to close quite a bit in turn 3. Some drivers on old tires still in front of him, and some drivers on fresher tires still in front of him. The car ducks onto pit road. Westbury in the 121 trying to block Harvick off through turns 6 and 7. Harvick slides into turn 8. Going to clear Westbury on a clean pass that time. Put the front tires down into the yellow. Harvick underneath Sadler. Sadler shuts the door on him. Sadler on a little bit fresher tires, so it's going to be a little harder even in turn 3 to make that pass for Harvick. So stay out of the pits another lap here. Likely push it to lap 126. I'll probably pit a few laps prior to that just to make sure. Sadler really wheel hopped the tires on the high side that time, allowing Harvick to make the pass on the bottom in turn 8. Craig Miller coming off of the pit lane now. Oh! Contact between Miller and Sadler. So he came off the pit lane. Sadler still gets by him, but obviously slowed him down quite a bit because he was on the back bumper of Harvick. Miller pulled out just right in front of him, it looked like. Probably a mixture of that, Sadler just not seeing him at how fast of a rate he was coming in. On the 168 car who was trying to get up to speed still. Harvick stays out another lap. So Harvick will pit this time by at lap 124 for his second stop of the day. It'll be a green flag stop this time by. See, everybody who was on the lead lap has already pit. Harvick going to be the last to do so once again. Hopefully, if he catches another caution like he did earlier, how perfect of timing would that be for the first and third yellow of the day to happen? But it does not look like it's going to happen this time around. Harvick down to the apron in turn 3. Almost got underneath Buchanan, but not quite. That's okay, though. It'll make an easy route for Harvick to come into the pit lane this time. 70 miles per hour is the pit road speed limit. As always on this game, gets to the commitment line that time. 4 fresh tires and a full tank of fuel. No adjustments on the 21 of Harvick. His second pit stop of the day, but the first green flag stop of the day. I know I said no adjustments, but they make the random adjustments on this game for whatever reason. Alrighty. Yeah, it doesn't let you go until you get all the way to the start-finish line in this game here. There we go. So the start-finish line would be technically the pit exit. Harvick merges his way back on the track. He'll easily hold on to the lead, even with some drivers short pitting on him. He had about a 23-second lead before the stop started. To see as he has gotten up to speed into turn 3. Make a pass on Sean Batson. See where exactly that lead is going to be. Looks like it's about a 30.5 second lead for Harvick, so he actually gained about 7.5 seconds during that set of green flag pit stops, and that was even with him staying out a little bit longer. The other drivers he was battling, I think that's just because those drivers that might have came out with fresher tires for about an extra 6 or 7 laps or so were caught in traffic where Harvick was not. Tim Feedwell, who had brought out that second caution of the day, he is right there. Harvick going to look to the inside. Slides up in front of both Feedwell and Kirkland. Feedwell with a big block on Kirkland on the high side. Harvick holds on in front of both of them after making that 3-wide pass in the corner. So the tires just a tiny bit that time into turn 8. Kirkland going to try to cross Feedwell over in turn 8 as well as they run side by side. Looks like Feedwell might try to cross him over in turn 1 again, and he does. So back and forth go the 86 and the 12. I think they're fighting to be the first car lap down. Actually, no, Feedwell is a second lap down now. I know for a fact he was 1 lap down earlier on that last restart. Harvick had gotten around him. So he must be, I don't know if Kirkland's 1 lap down or 2 laps down. But definitely not a battle for the free pass position. Harvick slides it into turn 8, outbreaking J.J. Yaley now in the 18 car, who has been close to winning a few races as of late, but still trying to search for that first win of the year. Definitely running out of time to try and do it. Yaley also in the top 10 in points. I'd like to have a win to finish out the year. He doesn't have a shot at the championship anymore. A real shot at least, but better luck next season for Yaley because we are running a second season for all 4 series on this game. Harvick power slides a bit on corner exit off turn 2 again. And Dwayne Borland right in front of him. Harvick makes the dive to the inside in 3 to clear Borland. Borland's now a lap down. He was in the top 10 earlier. Terry Cook was in 4th place when we saw him earlier in the race. 4th, then we passed him, putting him back to 5th. I don't think he's that high in the running order anymore. You have to assume he is still running fairly well. Harvick outbreaks him, he'll make the pass. It looks like Borland's going to outbreak Cook as well. They're still side by side, though. Borland couldn't clear him like Harvick did. See if they'll still be side by side as they cross the bridge and enter into turn 1 down into the shaded area. looks like Borland has cleared him off turn 2. Terry Cook trying to cross him over into turn 3 to the inside of the 135 of Borland. Just wonder what's going to go down in this one. 33.5-second lead. Still have one more pit stop yet before the end of the race. And we still have just over 100 laps to go yet as well, so still far from over. Harvick by far has led the most to this point, is probably very, very close to clinching the most laps led. Hasn't quite clinched it, but he is getting pretty darn close to doing so. Realistically, Kyle Busch doesn't have much of a shot unless something crazy happens here. So even with another caution, they can't make it on fuel until they get to about 60 laps to go. So there would be no sense of short pitting. Get back to the start-finish line. This time we'll alternate through the different camera angles one final time in today's race. It'll be for about a 4-lap stretch as usual for the non-Cup Series races. At least in this game. There we go. Corey Haynes in the 117 is the next lap car ahead of Kevin Harvick. I believe he is already 1 lap down. Haynes a little sideways into turns 1 and 2 that time. Harvick makes that dive all the way to the inside in turn 3, gasses it up and clears Haynes with ease. Let's get the power down. Back on the gas through these 3 or 4 turns. 4 into that hard braking zone in turn 8 as well. Part of why this is such a fast road course too, there's just so many different areas of the track where you're on throttle through a turn. The only corners you really even have to brake at all on would be turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and then you don't have to brake again until turn 8. So Kevin Harvick that time by just clinched the most laps led. Figured he was close, and we also have just hit 100 laps to go in this race as well. So 100 to go now at Old Spice Speedway. We are in the second half of it, but still a long ways to go with this being the longest race of the season. It's still at only 2 cautions on the day. We are currently on our longest green flag run of the race. Last restarted at lap 69. Previous longest green flag run would have been the opening 60 laps before we had received that first caution earlier in the race. Whew. Talk about cutting it close to turn 2. Getting into the wall. It power slid a little bit on corner entry as you saw, and that's why Harvick got as close. And well, you couldn't have had a better camera shot of it. Just seeing exactly how close Harvick was to the wall there. Gene Martin in the 107 car right in front of him. I'll tell you what, though, cutting it that close really did make for a pretty good corner entry, though. Locks it up into turn 8 as he gets around Martin. Let's see what this lap time is going to be at the line. A 46.692, fastest lap of the race that time for Kevin Harvick. Actually tied his fastest lap of the race because he already ran a 46.692, but tied for the fastest lap of the race. A lot of it was probably in turn 2. They rolled through there well, but boy, it was pretty sketchy. That was even passing Martin in turn 8 with a fast lap. If he didn't have that lab car in his way, that probably would have ended up being his fastest lap of the race. It was tied for his fastest, but it would have been probably the overall fastest. It would have been probably in the lower 46.6s. Up again into turn 8. Lance Brantley in the 109 car. Now the next lap car ahead. We saw him in the top 10 earlier on in the race as well. Go to the far chase cam for now. We'll actually stay here until the end of the race. Makes the pass, on Brantley that time. A lot of clean traffic up ahead of Kevin Harvick. We'll take our next short break coming up here. Another 20-lap stint. You're watching the Dairyland 350 for the NASCAR Busch Series on NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005 video game, live on KRC. Back lap 162 of lap 162 of 233 at the Old Spice Speedway. NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005, the Dairyland 350. Just 5 races to go in the season for the NASCAR Busch Series. Kevin Harvick has dominated the day. You can see he's got a 1-lap lead on the field and has lapped the field now moments ago. But we also had our third caution of the race moments ago as well. And I didn't show it because it was pretty bad caution. Essentially what happened was I was in lap traffic. I'd already lapped the field at the time, actually just past Kyle Busch, who was still in second place a couple laps prior to the accident. In turn 2, I actually started in turn 1. Going into turn 1, I got to the inside of the 35 car. He tried to block me. I was able to go low enough. I was underneath him. And then in turn 2, he tried to block to the high side. I was already there. And he turned himself right into the guardrail right here off the exit of turn 2. Into that awkward spot. A couple other cars piled in behind him. A hard hit into the guardrail for sure, but not that hard of hits for the drivers that came by and hit him. The developing story side of things was under the yellow, where Kevin Harvick stayed out of the pits to make sure that nobody was going to get their lap back with the wave around like what happened earlier in the race because of the couple cautions we had in the first 100 laps. So he stayed out of the pits. Well, in doing so, everybody else behind him hit pit road under the caution. So with everybody hitting pit road under the yellow, except for Kevin Harvick, you would think they can't make it on fuel to the end of the race. Harvick's got the clean air in the track position as Kyle Busch has struggled on the restart to get by some of those lap cars who even got around Harvick. Harvick was like the 4th car in line by the time he finally got back to the inside, so even he struggled a little bit, but once he got back down into the preferred lane, corner by corner, he was able to pick his way back through that traffic, get the clean air, and since getting the clean air, even on older tires, is starting to pull away. But again, you just kind of wonder, is it possible that those guys can make it on field to the end of the race? We know Harvick will still have to pit one more time, and he stayed out thinking that you probably won't be able to make it. 60 laps would be the limit, and we're just now getting to 69 laps to go, so we're still just north of it. But can these guys somehow find a way to save 9 to 12 laps of fuel to be able to make it to the end of this race without having to pit again? And if that is the case, this is a shorter road course. You will lose a lap with this very long pit road, especially with it being on the outside of the 8th turn as well, not the inside of a corner. Pit road, pit lane, I should say, in general, very unique. Best thing that could happen for Harvick here is we get another caution at some point, which that caution would have to fly before he would end up having to pit for his 3rd and final stop. But everybody else has made 3 stops. I think with them pitting under the yellow that they're thinking one more will do it, but maybe they go fuel only as well. They save their tires and they can gain time that way. I mean, either way, if they did have to pit again, Harvick will cycle back to the lead. I think the major thing is here, though, is if we can get through Harvick's pit stop, then they get a caution. They're right back into this just like that, all back on the lead lap where they were lapped down before that 3rd caution. So it's a strategy I think that's going to benefit them if it plays out, and if it doesn't play out, it didn't hurt them any because they were already lapped down anyway, so might as well do something different from the leader. I'm sure if Harvick would have pit there, they would have just stayed out to try and get the wave around and try to catch a quick yellow like they did earlier in the race. So that was our third caution of the day. It flew at about lap 150, I believe is what it was. So it was our longest green flag run of the race as well at 81 laps. Up to this point, for me at least, over 2.5, well, not quite 2.5 hours of recording. Getting there though. We will not go anywhere until Harvick makes his third and final pit stop of the race. Might be a little bit yet, but then at that point we may take another small break before the end of the race. That was a major wheel spin that time off of turn 2. My goodness. What was that? Car just about spun out on me. It didn't feel like it was that loose, but it looked pretty bad. Tell you what though, another race I'm doing another day I should say, that I'm doing 2 long races in a day too. So I'm recording this before I run my live stream of our 500-mile race on the Cup Series side of things on this game at the California Speedway. Great corner that time for Harvick getting into turn 8. He didn't block the tires at all. But anyway, so we got this long race, which is probably the longest Busch Series race of the season. Then I have one of the longest Cup Series races of the season coming up after this. My goodness, it's going to be... I mean, this one's going to go over 3 hours. The other race later is likely going to go over 3 hours as well. Over 6 hours of racing for me on this game today. Crazy. I'll have a few hours of break time, I guess, in between now and then. I'll need it. I guess Harvick was able to save a little bit more fuel under that last yellow as well. Might be closer to about lap 290 before he even has to pit again. These other drivers, if I had to imagine, at the most, if they can run, 60 laps like Harvick has been able to do a couple times a day on fuel, maybe a little more with the caution, they might have saved a few laps with the yellow pitting then, but they're probably going to need another caution, if not 2 yellows, if they're going to want to make it on fuel to the end of the race. I just don't see them being able to do it. I know it's a shorter road course, but it's still a road course. It's hard to save fuel. It's a long enough track, even though it's a short road course, still longer than most racetracks. There you go, about a quarter tank of fuel left for Kevin Harvick. So I'd probably say about 15, 16 more laps of fuel. He could probably end up pushing it. It's probably just shy of lap 190. He'll end up having to make his final pit stop of the day. But even if he wanted to pit now, the window would be open just about to the end of the race. We're at 61 to go right now, this time by, if I'm doing my math correctly. Yeah, 61 laps left. There's no way those guys are going to make it on fuel. I didn't think it was possible, and that's why I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer for me to stay out. I didn't want to get them the easy wave around, but it's one of those situations where it's like if we would have been on the lead lap, we would have pitted. Or if everybody else would have been on the lead lap, I would have pit, even if I gave up the track position. to get fresh tires. We know how fast of a car we've got, but being the leader, those roles were completely reversed 180 degrees there, and now we're in this situation. First race I've ran with this car since purchasing my own Busch Series Kevin Harvick 2004 diecast car at the Bristol Motor Speedway this last weekend. If you missed my live stream, which by the time this premieres would have been a few days prior to this premiere, it would have been a live stream Wednesday night, I believe it would have been. NASCAR Heat 5 career mode at Michigan. I showed off the 3 diecasts I had bought that last weekend. Not going to show you all 3 of them, but I will show you the one diecast that I had purchased while I was there. And it's actually the 3rd of the 3 that I had gotten that weekend in the tent vendors. And the reason why I'll show you it is because it's this exact car. It's this exact paint scheme. So let me show you real quick. So we get to lap 175 down the long straight. I'll pause it for a quick second and show you the car. Of course, I already showed you once, but kind of excited I got it. But here it is. Kevin Harvick. Look at that. Look at the shine. Look at the shine. It's identical. It's the same year, same paint scheme, same driver, everything. And this is the only Busch Series paint scheme I've got. Like I have some. Oh no, it's the only 124 scale Busch Series car I own now. I do have a smaller Charter number 60 Carl Edwards from like 2007, I think, or 2006, somewhere around there. 2008, somewhere around there. Same paint scheme Greg Biffle runs in this game, but I know Carl Edwards is on the number itself, but. That's the only other like actual Busch series. I have some Xfinity cars, but Busch at the time series race cars, and yeah, I mean man, this car's so slick. I will tell you. I mean, actually, it's coming in better quality now. It's actually focusing now. It didn't focus as well the other day when I showed you guys. I don't think, but pretty solid. And we're trying to win our first race since me purchasing that car in the same car. It's actually the first race we've ran with it too, but just wanted to show that off during the premiere as well. I was going to go to full screen for you guys, but it looked like the camera actually focused. I didn't have to go to full screen, so it works out. Look at that. I didn't mess up the first 2 corners after unpausing it, so that's a good thing. Good sign, good sign. We're closer to perhaps clinching a championship as well here for Kevin Harvick's sake. A little bit into turn 8. That's just been kind of normal. There's only been a select few times where I haven't locked the brakes up in that corner today. Probably more than what I'm thinking. It's probably closer to 20, 30 times, but out of 176 laps so far, probably about 160 something up under green, which means well over 100 times. 130, 140 times I've locked the brakes up in turn 8. And not locking the brakes up in turn 3 at all. I was at the very beginning of the race, and then I got better at it. And now that's my best corner on the track, but for whatever reason, turn 8, I'm still locking up. But you can see the speed differential there, 156 miles an hour before getting into the braking zone in turn 6 and backs it all the way down to 65 miles an hour in turn 8. So from 156 to 65 miles an hour, it's a very heavy braking zone. Longest straightaway of the racetrack in turn 1, because you're at such low speed exiting turn 8, it's not quite the fastest speeds on the track. Versus getting into this hairpin off the exit of turn 2, you're only going 109 miles an hour, backing it all the way down to about 59. So it's about a 50 mile per hour drop off there, where it's about a 90 mile per hour drop off between turn 7 and 8. Didn't lock the brakes up that time. probably as good as he's probably got through turn 8 all day. Of the first 178 laps. Right front tires down into the yellow. The left front will probably join very soon. The rear tires have gotten there at times here today as well. I should say before both pit stops they've gotten there as well. So Harvick's made one pit stop under yellow and one pit stop under green so far. The window's open to make it on field at the end of the race for now, but he is just going to take this run as far as he can. He's already clinched the most laps led, so doesn't mean anything. But just in case we do end up getting a caution to even the strategy out where everybody will still likely have to pit. And there it is, caution for the 4th time today, right as I was talking about it. Why does that happen so much? Sorry, I talk about it so much. And, oh, wow, a hard hit. Tiny Buchanan, and the 113 got turned by the 152. And right head on into the barrier, lifted the wheels off the ground. He hit the car into the barrier at the front of the pit road entrance so hard. And that is our 4th yellow of the race. So now Harvick will pit under the caution. We'll see how many drivers will follow, knowing they're likely going to have to pit one more time before the end of the race, and they're all coming in. So they're not even going to take the gamble of getting a quick yellow here. They're going to try to unlap themselves the old-fashioned way, it looks like. No adjustments for the 21 of Harvick. 4 fresh tires and a full tank of fuel coming. Lap 180 on pit road. So twice as many cautions as what we saw at Old Spice Speedway earlier this year, and we haven't even gotten to lap 200. You know what they say, cautions breed cautions, and we've had 2 of them in the last 30 laps that we have ran so far. That was definitely the hardest hit of the 4 cautions we have seen so far today. I mean, he went from probably 100, I mean, we've been going through that corner 120, 130 miles an hour. And he went to a dead stop as soon as he hit the tire barrier and the wheels came off the ground. He just flat out got turned. The 152 is committed to short pitting and coming to pit road there, and he's got turned. Some of these guys are going to get back on the lead lap, just beating Harvick off of pit road. Bobby Hamilton Jr., second in points, is going to get back on the lead lap, so that's crucial for him. Any fight he can take to the 21 for the rest of tonight and even the rest of the season with the 4 races remaining after the checkered flag flies today. Green flag back in the air at Old Spice Speedway. Lap 182 as Harvick leads the field to the green. A couple of drivers that got back on the lead lap. It was very beneficial for them. Side by side, they're going to be 3 wide into turn 2. Look at Kyle Busch go up the middle. Busch up the middle to get his lap back on Harvick. Harvick going to cross him back over into turn 3. We've seen a caution on the restart once today. Kyle Busch is hoping for a quick one. He's on equal tires and he's trying to hang on. Side drafting Harvick now through turns 5 and 6 into 7. He's got the advantage on the bottom. Harvick should have the advantage on the inside into turn 8. Busch not clear yet. Harvick locks the tires up. Has a wheel hop the car though when locking the tires up. He clears Busch. Trying to side draft Castleberry and get around him as well to maybe get a pit car in between them. Castleberry hanging on for now. Harvick back in his corners up in turns 1 and 2. Big dive into turn 3. Oh, and he just door slammed the 37 of David Green. An aggressive clearance that time off of turn 3. Tried to get both of them. He definitely cleared one. Wasn't going to be able to clear the second, but I guess he forcefully cleared. Backs up the corner in turn 8. Great corner that time. And Castleberry runs the 37 car a little wide as well. No contact between the 2 of them, initially at least. Ashton Lewis, I believe, is shown as the second place race car right now. But he is hoping for a quick yellow, and Harvick overruns the next corner. That was a really bad corner entry into turn 2, and he tries to back up turn 3 on the other end and get whatever time he lost in turn 2 right back. As much of it as he could. I don't think he quite got all of it. He's battling back and forth behind him, definitely helping him out quite a bit. Locks the tires up into turn 8. He would like to get around Ashley Lewis before we get another yellow, if at all possible. Harvick with the dive into turn 3, clears Lewis, clean pass. And now he'll block Lewis as he tries to get the hammer back down again. Talk about the free pass today. I kind of forgot there's no free passes in the Busch series in this game for whatever reason. So Lewis trying to get it back the old-fashioned way to the outside, trying to brake as heavily as he could as Harvick protected the bottom. Harvick will hold clear off the exit of turn 8. Lap 186 at the line. We have less than 50 laps to go here today at Old Spice Speedway. Everybody's good on fuel to the end after pitting during the caution flag on our 4th yellow of the race. It's the 3rd time Harvick has pit today, so he's still got a set of tires left. If we get any more yellows where he feels like he would want to pit, he's got the clean air. He can pull away from Ashton Lewis. See if Lewis can hang on to get a 2nd place run. That'd be pretty good for him today. I don't think he has a win this year either, but he was a lot closer to winning races at the beginning of the year, but it'd be nice to see him get a top 5 late in the season. He's in the top 10 in points still. Maybe have a top 5 points finish, you never know. Not out of the realms for Ashton Lewis yet. Definitely widening that gap out. Crosses the bridge. Ooh, even locked the tires up into turn 2. That upset the race car, not only on corner entry, but all the way through the exit of the corner. I don't think he's locked the tires up at turn 2 all day today. That was definitely a wheel hop. The car a little sideways there. Take a short break for the final time today. You're watching the Dairyland 350 at the Old Spice Speedway. NASCAR Busch Series action live on KRC. And we are back live at lap 201. Caution flag has waved in for the 5th time today. Another instance where I'm not sure exactly what happened. It looks like Blue Castleberry was having an issue, pulled up the track. Bobby Hamilton Jr. tried to stop. That was very similar to the first caution we saw today when Casey Atwood had pulled up in front of a car as well, trying to probably get to pit road while the field had slowed down. So Harvick will stay out of the pits. See if anybody else tries to come down for another stop. Harvick's got 1 set of tires left, but he has a 1-lap lead on the field. Does not want to give that up if he can help it. So about to come up to another restart following our 5th yellow of the day. Green flag back in the air, and we have 29 laps to go at Old Spice Speedway. Ashton Lewis takes that advantage into the first turn. David Green trying to get around him. Harvick throws a sliding block off turn 2 on Kyle Busch. Will be down on the inside into 3. Harvick tries to gas it up, and he gets right back around both David Green and Ashton Lewis through turn 3. And now he's going to block Lewis into 4, 5, 6, and 7, it looks like, and he's going to have to hold on into turn 8. Lewis trying the high side to set himself up for the bottom. Harvick will protect the inside. He'll give Lewis the high side. Harvick didn't lock the tires up, did a great job backing the car down. Lewis made the mistake by going high. David Green underneath him for second place to the start-finish line. So Harvick fends everybody off again. We'll see if we stay green, and we'll see if he'll have to fend off any more restarts. Green clears into turn 2. Kyle Busch sitting in 4th place behind both drivers. He wants to get himself up to 2nd, and maybe a chance for Bobby Hamilton Jr. was involved in that last caution that he has of maybe getting back to 2nd place in the point standings. Locking up the brakes a little bit into turn 8, but already Harvick starting to pull away from everybody. Everybody is still on equal tires. It would have been an advantage, perhaps. Now, if it is like Harvick, where he's got 4 sets of tires, everybody else is on their final set, except for Harvick. He has pitted one last time, because there was a caution earlier in the race, the 3rd yellow, where everybody pitted except for Harvick. And he does not want to give anybody their lap back if he can help it, even if he will be at the front of the field on fresher tires, because who's to say we don't get a couple cautions back-to-back like we've seen already today a couple times. He made it through the first few laps of the restart here. Almost to the 3-hour mark on the recording. It's definitely been a long race for me. Sporadic cautions giving breaks in the action, making it a little bit longer. Let's take another mini break here as Harvick is already pulling away on the restart. We get another yellow. We'll come back into the action again. Watching the Dairyland 350 for the Busch Series live on KRC. Lap 217, welcome back at the Old Spice Speedway for the Dairyland 350. We are closing in on the finish of the race, just 17 laps to go. Still just the 5 caution flags throughout this one. We have eclipsed the 3-hour mark on the race, making this the longest Busch Series race of the season thus far. And really ever on the channel for a Busch/Xfinity Series race. The longest ever on the channel's history. So you guys seeing history on the premiere here today. Massive 1-lap lead. The cautions have played right to hold on to that as well for Kevin Harvick. Really got to it because of obviously getting through the lap traffic really well. That long green flag run of 81 laps got him to beat the field during green flag pit stops. And not only that, but a couple of drivers who had some damage and were smoking, trying to get to pit road, had slowed up the second place car at the time, Kyle Busch. And if none of that happened, Busch would be on the lead lap right now. Now, obviously, Harvick would still have the lead, as you would see, but being on the lead lap, we get another late yellow. They're right there. But instead, all these cautions keep coming out, and it's giving them 2 yellows to have to get there. Because, again, the Busch Series is the only series on this game where there are cautions, yes, but you do not get the waiver, or I should say you can't get the waiver on, but you cannot get the free pass for being the first car 1 lap down. So that's why we haven't been seeing more drivers get back in the lead lap like in today's games, or even in this game with the Cup Series and the Truck Series. That is the case. You can get the free pass for being the first car lap down when the caution waves, but for whatever reason in the Busch Series they didn't include that. Must have been a glitch with the game, but one way or another, and there's no drink my checkers either with the Busch Series, so if we do end up getting a caution at any point in this race, the race will come to an end. If it is late enough, of course. Pretty straightforward, easy race, at least for the 21 of Harvick. Lap 220. Definitely going to get done with this a lot later than what I thought I was going to. I don't think I timed it out quite right. All the pauses I made and everything, especially with these extra jump cuts because of the cautions coming out in the middle of the jump cuts that were originally slated. I'm only going to have a little less than 2 hours before my live stream at the California Speedway on this very video game for the Cup Series side of things. But at least it's a little break. About 90 minutes or so by the time the checkered flag flies here in this one, unless we get another couple cautions that slow the race pace down even more. 13 laps to go at the line for Harvick. And really, to get back-to-back cautions at this point in the race, too, has got to be very, very difficult. I mean, it's still possible, but that first of the two cautions would have to fly very shortly, knowing a couple laps will tick away under the caution flag, and then we'll go green. And obviously, you don't want the race to end under yellow if you want a shot to win it. So if you can get back on the lead lap like Ashton Lewis has done briefly a couple times, David Green did that last time as well, going to have to capitalize again immediately. I have to assume we've had a lot of drivers DNF in this race. Gotten involved in accidents with the 5 cautions we've seen so far. We've seen some drivers blow engines. And just the fact that it is the longest race of the season. 350 miles on a road course is just ridiculous. It's not kilometers, it is miles. I mean, most of the races in general with the Busch series or the Xfinity series now aren't longer than 300 miles. So to have this race longer in general, if it was on an oval, but because it's on a road course, that's why it has gone over 3 hours now. It is the second and final time this season that will be the case. Already getting through it. So are we. 11 to go. Be another win on the season. I think we're going to do a burnout on the bridge when we win this race. Why not? I did that in the modified series when I won here. Did a burnout on the bridge. I think we're going to do that here with Kevin Harvick in the Busch series as well. I believe we did win here earlier this season. I can't quite remember. I remember we had 2 cautions. 5 today. I expected that we were going to get probably at least one more. Would have been a little bit longer, but I wasn't expecting 5 up to this point. We haven't even hit the checkered flag yet. 10 laps to go this time by for the 21. Richard Childress has to be proud of his Cup Series regular who was hot down to dominate the Busch Series this season. Probably making it for an easier ride, I guess, on myself and trying to win this championship, but oh well. You guys voted for me. Racist Kevin Harvick. Now 9 laps to go this time by. I think Harvick's thinking if we are going to get another yellow, let's just have it end under yellow. Get this race over with. Not prolong this thing any longer. Been a long day, but he has kept his focus throughout, which has put him in this situation. I mean, even if he did lose a little bit on the restarts with having the gigantic lead, he was able to do so, and he was able to get back around these guys all but once. And then he was able to get back around him under that longest green flag run of the race in the middle portion of the race as well. So it's all worked out in the end for this 21 team. 8 more. The countdown clock is definitely on at this point. Field does look pretty bunched together still, especially in the middle and even really towards the back of the pack. Harvick, although he's running some quick laps, I don't think he's going to catch any lap traffic before the end of the race if it stays green. Big slide. The exit to turn 2 that time. Barely kept it off the wall, too. That would have been a pretty ugly hit. I've kept it off that wall all day. I'd like to keep it that way. Tires up into turn 8. Just trying to get to that white flag as soon as possible. Well, we had back-to-back races where we saw a car flip in this Busch Series season. 3 cars have flipped total in the last 2 races. Barring something crazy happening here late, I don't think we're going to see anybody flip today at Old Spice Speedway. Quarter tank of fuel left for Kevin Harvick, but he's coming to 5 laps to go this time by. I had to guess probably about 11 to 13 laps of the good on fuel, which, as we expected, these guys were going to be good to the end on fuel. No issues. So they'll pitted under that 5th yellow that we have had so far in the race today, or I should say 4th yellow in the race today. We had another one, but everybody stayed out of the pits. During that caution, Harvick gets a little slideways off turn 2 again. Not as close to the wall as what he was a couple laps ago when he did it, but oh well. The brakes a little earlier than normal right there into turn 8. Almost wheel hopped at that time. How early it happened in the corner, still higher speeds at that point. Drives out of it all right. And we have just 4 laps to go. Even if Harvick continues to close at the rate he is coming at, if he did somehow catch any lap cars before the end of the race, he's still just going to kind of sit behind him and not even risk trying to pass him. 3 laps remain. The Old Spice Speedway. Harvick trying to get the sweep at this road course this season. Strange that we didn't go to Watkins Glen on this season. I'm not sure why. I know the Busch Series actually, at least I think they raced at Watkins Glen in 2004. Maybe they didn't. I'd like to think they probably did. Just really, really strange. But that was not the case this time around. Tinier lockup than the lap before. 2 to go. No cautions on the final lap. NASCAR EA Sports video games, so all Kevin Harvick has to do at this point is just get to that white flag, and we will stay green to the end no matter what. That's how we locked it up quite a bit again. That's all right. Burn the tires off of it. White flag's in the air. 1 lap to go for Kevin Harvick. The longest race of the Busch Series season is about to come to an end. He still ran in the 46.9s that last lap. His fast lap of the day was a 46.645 at one point. was on this final tire stint as well, but I think it was before that last caution that we had. Half a lap to go. One final turn into turn 8 for Kevin Harvick. One of the best times he's gotten through turn 8 today as well. Checkered flag in the air. Harvick wins at the Old Spice Speedway in the Dairyland 350. The long race is finally concluded. And Harvick is going to go right to the bridge to do his burnout in today's race. So wait 233 laps to do this. The burnout on the bridge for Harvick. A well-deserved win at that. There we go. I wanted to get the puffier smoke. Now we got the puffier smoke going. Let's go. Oh, just slap the wall a little bit. There we go. Now we'll pass inspection now. All right. Kevin Harvick wins at the Old Spice Speedway. Let's look at that race length. How long was it? 3 hours and 35 minutes. My goodness. That is almost our longest race ever. Just shy. Just shy of it. It was a Busch. It wasn't even a cup race. It was almost our longest race in channel's history. Our longest race was the NASCAR Heat 4 Coca-Cola 600 that lasted 3 hours and 46 minutes. This race was only 11 minutes shy of that. It wasn't even a cup race. Or an IMSA race. My goodness. There's a look at the finishing results. Harvick, the only driver to finish on the lead lap in this long one here today. David Green finishes second. Ron Hornaday third. Ashton Lewis fourth. J.J. Yaley rounds up the top five. Kyle Busch on that last restart fell back to sixth. David Stremme finished in seventh. Bobby Hamilton Jr. After being involved in an accident earlier, rallied back to finish eighth. Steve Calloway ninth, and Wally Renshaw rounds out the top 10 here today. Kevin Harvick led 217 of the 233 laps today. The only other laps were led by Kyle Busch. He led the first 16 laps of the race. And every other lap was led by Kevin Harvick from then on. Harvick started last, finished first without any practice or qualifying. I trusted myself with no practice or qualifying. A lot of the reason was because we did win here earlier this season and ran a lot of laps in that race. But man, this race was, 28 minutes longer than the one earlier this season. Oh my gosh, we have another long race up next. The Aaron's 3:12 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, 202 laps. That's still less laps than what we ran today. It'll be longer for a Busch race, but not that long. So 312 miles on tap for that one, 202 laps. The Atlanta Motor Speedway. That weird race length might play into some pit strategy. We'll have to wait and see exactly how that will play out. Maybe it could be a fuel mileage race. But 4 races to go now on the season. Atlanta, Phoenix, Darlington, and Homestead will be the 4 races remaining. Max points day for Kevin Harvick on top of the win. He'll expand that points lead. It was 425 points coming in. Kyle Busch only finished 2 spots ahead of Bobby Hamilton Jr., so Hamilton may still be second in points, but we'll take a quick look at it. Yes, he is. So Bobby Hamilton Jr. is still second in points. Kyle Busch still third. And Hornaday still quite a ways back and forth, but he's still quite a ways ahead of Stremme. Hornaday's almost practically locked in fourth in points unless Hamilton or Kyle Busch have a DNF ahead of him, which then it would be possible for Hornaday to gain a spot or 2 in the points. But Kevin Harvick, 473 points ahead. I think mathematically we actually have a chance to clinch the championship depending on how we do in the next race at Atlanta. Most points you could score in a single race is 190. The least amount of points you could score in a single race, if I remember correctly, is 33. So 157 points is the difference. Times 3 is 471. So if Bobby Hamilton Jr., basically we have to beat Bobby Hamilton in the next race. unless he gets bonus points. If he gets more bonus points than we do, then he'll still be clinging on there. But yeah, so we have to be 471 points ahead after Atlanta to clinch the championship 3 races before the finale, which is just ridiculous. We've clinched 1 race early in the trucks, and we clinched 2 races early in the modified series, but there were only 22 cars on the field. This is a 43 car field. We, with the season long championship, are very close to clinching it all the way. But yeah, there we go. So we can lose 2 points to Bobby Hamilton, but I mean, if he beats us by 1 position and we get the same amount of bonus points, it won't matter. If we lead the most laps, but he beats us, and let's say he leads at least 1 lap to get 5 bonus points, so let's say he wins the race, I think he would. Man, that's close. I don't know. I'll figure it out when we get there. If we beat Bobby Hamilton Jr. in the next race, unless he gets 10 bonus points to 0 for us, if we beat him in the next race, we will clinch the championship. If we could just lead 1 lap. Essentially, if we lead 1 lap, and as long as Bobby Hamilton Jr. doesn't lead the most laps, if we beat him in any way, it doesn't matter what position, we will win the championship. But if he ends up leading the most laps, then we'll have to beat him by 2 positions, 3 positions if we don't lead a lap at all, to clinch the championship 1 race early. So that is kind of the point situation we're looking at, if I'm thinking correctly. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. I will see you guys in the next stream, which will be later tonight. So you don't want to miss a thing. It would be tonight of the premiere, that is. Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the Xfinity Series is racing. Well, we will be live for commentary of that race. So like, share, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Next NASCAR video game live stream will be the following Sunday. It will be Road America NASCAR Heat 5 Career Mode Racing on a Sunday afternoon. So hope to see you guys then. Again, thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate your support, as always. Very close to 1,000 subscribers. Trying to talk too many words at once. I need to get out of here so I can prepare for the next race later today.